Ever wish you could tap into some ancient secret for like, I don't know, a longer, healthier life?
Hmm. I think we all do.
Well, today we're going deep on Taoist sexology, and it's not just another self-help book.
Definitely not.
We've got these excerpts from the Tao of Sexology by Dr. Stephen T. Chang. It's like packed with wild insights into how to use sexual energy, not just for pleasure, but for vitality and even longevity.
What really jumps out at me is that Taoists saw this energy, the sexual energy, as a key to unlocking a healthier and more vibrant life. And they believed it could actually, like, boost your immune system and maybe even reverse some aspects of aging.
Okay, well, hold up. So our mission today is to decode those secrets to like lasting vitality, see how sexual energy connects to overall well-being, at least according to Taoist principles,
Right.
and maybe uncover some practical tips that, our listeners could actually use in their own lives. What do you think?
Sounds like a plan. But the book does jump into some pretty advanced concepts right away.
Right.
So maybe a super quick Taoism 101 would be helpful here.
Yeah, because not everyone listening is, a Taoism scholar or anything. So what are the absolute basics that we need to know?
Okay, so Taoism, at its core, is all about living in harmony with nature. It's considered the oldest science of life. And the ultimate goal, well, is to achieve a long and healthy life, potentially even immortality.
Immortality, wow.
Yeah. And what's so fascinating is that they actually had all these very specific techniques to, try and make that happen.
Technique, so it's not just sitting on a mountaintop meditating all day long.
Not quite, though meditation is definitely part of it. But Taoism incorporates things like specific diets, exercises, herbal medicine, and even these things called internal exercise.
Internal exercises.
Yeah, think of it like working out your insides, not just your muscles.
Okay, I'm intrigued already.
Right. So the book mentions something called the 8 pillars of Taoism, and sexology is just one of them.
Right. I mean, there are 8, so that shows you how broad this whole system really is.
Exactly. And, we're focusing on the sexology piece for today.
Right.
But it's super important to remember that it's all interconnected with these other pillars.
Right.
All of them are for cultivating health and vitality.
Okay. Got it. So let's dive into one of the core concepts, the 7 glands.
Okay.
It kind of sounds like, our endocrine system, right? I mean, is that what they're talking about?
You're definitely picking up on the parallels there.
Right.
The Taoists, they identified these energy centers centuries ago.
Right.
And they do line up pretty neatly with what we know today as the endocrine system.
Okay.
So the 7 glands are the pineal, the pituitary, the thyroid, the thymus, the pancreas, the adrenal glands, and then, of course, the sexual glands.
Okay. So how does this energy flow work? Are they like stacked up in our bodies or something?
Well, not exactly stacked. Think of it more like interconnected vessels, each one influencing the others.
Okay.
And energy needs to flow freely between them.
Got it.
But if one gets depleted, it throws the whole system off.
Right. Makes sense. Like dominoes, right? If one falls, they all go down. But what does that mean for for us in practical terms? I mean, how do we experience this?
Well, the book actually quotes Dr. Alexis Carrel.
Yeah.
He was a Nobel Prize winner. And his research was on cell function.
Right.
And get this. He called the glands the wheel of life.
Wheel of life.
Yeah. So his idea was if that wheel spins smoothly, the cells are healthy.
Right.
And get this. He believed that cells were potentially immortal.
Whoa, so we're all walking around with like the potential for immortality inside of us. That's wild.
It is a pretty mind-blowing concept. But if you connect it to the bigger picture, the Taoists believed that by, balancing and strengthening this whole energy system,
Right.
we could actually boost our immune systems and maybe even reverse aging and tap into that cellular immortality.
So it's not just about living longer, but living like a more vibrant, energetic life for however long you're here. Now, let's get into what this means specifically for men and women, because the book goes into quite a bit of detail about the male perspective, starting with, well, penis size.
Yes. And it actually addresses a very common concern that a lot of men have.
Right.
The Taoists, they believe that a man's penis continues to grow throughout his life.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And they even suggest specific exercises to influence both the size and the shape. And they say the mushroom shape is more desirable than the pencil shape.
The mushroom shape. So more like...
More like a wider head, a more rounded head.
Oh, got it. The book mentions techniques like milking and slapping, which are certainly memorable, to say the least.
Yeah, those are pretty descriptive terms.
But then it takes a more serious turn, talking about how ejaculation is actually a big energy loss.
Right. That's a really key concept here.
Right.
The Taoists, They considered ejaculation to be like a great sacrifice. And it actually depletes all 7 glands, not just physical energy, but also your mental and spiritual energy.
So if you're doing that all the time, you're basically just draining yourself.
Exactly. So the alternative they offer is something called ejaculation.
Ejaculation.
Yeah. And that's all about redirecting that energy
Yeah.
inwards and upwards instead of, releasing it outwards.
Right.
So you're essentially like recycling it.
Interesting.
One technique they describe is called the $1,000,000 point.
$1,000,000 point.
Yeah. And that's all about achieving orgasm without ejaculating. And they claim it can lead to much greater endurance and control. And there are even stories about men feeling incredibly energized afterwards, like soaring lions.
Soaring lions? I love
Yeah,
that.
pretty powerful imagery.
Right. It sounds intense. And then there's this deer exercise, which seems to be like central to the whole male practice.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, imagine an exercise that combines physical movements with breath work and mental focus, all aimed at strengthening your sexual organs, boosting your circulation, and helping you last longer. That's the deer exercise in a nutshell.
Okay. I'm starting to get the picture.
Yeah.
And the book claims it can help with, just about everything. Premature ejaculation, low hormone levels, even infections.
Right.
There's this one tip that really stuck with me, and I'm quoting here. If you relax your anus as you thrust and squeeze as you withdraw.
Well, that's certainly specific advice.
Right. It's very detailed, but it shows how practical these techniques can be. It's not just about physical movements. There's like a mental and spiritual component too.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered quite a bit on the male perspective. Let's switch gears now and see what the book has to say for women.
Okay.
One thing that stood out to me was how it emphasized that breasts are far more intricate and sensitive than, I think a lot of us realize.
Yeah, you're right. The book really cautions against any kind of rough handling, saying that it can lead to blockages and potential health problems down the line.
Okay.
The only exception, according to the Taoists, is nursing, which is, naturally designed for a limited time.
Right. Okay.
After that time, even sucking on them can cause issues.
Interesting. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The book talks about the vagina and the 9 levels of orgasm. 9 levels. Most people don't even know there's more than one.
Yeah, I know. Most people think of female orgasm as like a single peak.
Right.
But the Taoists, they saw it as more of a journey with 9 distinct stages. And what's fascinating is that they actually believe that getting stuck at certain stages could even create energy imbalances in your organs.
So reaching the 9th level isn't just about pleasure, it's about maintaining balance and health.
Exactly,
Yep.
throughout your entire system. Now, there's a deer exercise for women too, but it seems to have a different focus than the men's version.
Yeah. So what's the difference?
For women, the deer exercise, it's said to potentially stop menstruations altogether.
Stop menstruation completely. Wow, that seems pretty extreme.
Well, might seem that way, but the book actually emphasizes that this was historically used for family planning and that menstruation usually returns after you stop doing the exercise.
Okay, so it's not a permanent thing?
No. They even reassure women that pregnancy is still possible.
Right. But so what are the supposed benefits of stopping menstruation?
They claim it can naturally boost estrogen production, alleviate menopause symptoms, and even eliminate any kind of menstrual problems and increase, sexual pleasure.
Okay, wow. It sounds pretty powerful.
It is. It's presented as a, powerful technique for enhancing female health and well-being. It's definitely presented as a way to enhance female health and well-being.
Right. A lot to unpack there. Speaking of different perspectives, though, I did notice that the book also touches on some, some topics that people might find a little controversial.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It kind of delves into some areas that you wouldn't necessarily expect in a book about, Taoist sexology, the whole subject of homosexuality.
Oh, right, yeah.
So what does it have to say about that? I'm really curious to hear their take.
Well, it starts by acknowledging that everyone has both male and female hormones, what they call yin and yang.
Right, the balance.
Right.
Yeah.
And they see both homosexuality and heterosexuality as natural expressions of these energies.
So it's not about, one being right or wrong or anything. It's just about understanding these energies.
Yeah, and how they play out in different people.
But the book does point out that from a reflexology standpoint, homosexual relationships might not achieve the same, energetic balance as heterosexual ones.
Right. They suggest that women especially might need the stimulation of a live penis to, fully energize their systems.
So it's less about morality and more about, these energies and how they impact health and well-being within their system.
Exactly. And they even get into specifics about it, suggesting that, gay men should alternate between active and passive roles to make sure all their reflexology zones are getting stimulated.
It's amazing how they've managed to kind of weave together these like ancient principles with this sort of modern understanding of the body.
They're really intriguing blend. And they also address situations where sex might be, actually detrimental, even dangerous.
Okay, like what kind of situations are we talking about here?
Well, for example, they advise against sex when you're like totally exhausted or if you're seriously ill or have, a sexually transmitted infection, which, I mean, yeah.
Makes sense. You need all your energy for healing.
Right. Exactly.
And sex can be pretty depleting.
Right. So it's all about being in tune with your body and knowing when you need to just rest and recharge, which is good advice for anyone, really.
Totally. Are there any other specific situations they mention?
Let me see. Yeah. They also caution against sex right after you take a bath or right after eating a big meal or even right after you pee.
Okay.
And they even say it's best to, like, avoid it during a full moon or a new moon and also at sunset and during intense weather like storms or earthquakes.
Whoa, that's getting pretty specific.
I know, right? It's like they really thought of everything. But their reasoning behind it is, all these situations can create like these energetic imbalances that could disrupt your whole system. It's about like being in sync with nature's rhythms,
right,
and avoiding anything that might, kind of throw you off balance.
It's like a Taoist farmer's almanac for sex.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I meant.
So, speaking of timing,
Yeah.
they also have a whole section on conception and, picking the right moment to conceive a healthy child.
Okay, this is where I get really interested because, I know people talk about like the best time of the month and all that, but this seems to go like way beyond that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They believe that the energy of both parents at the moment of conception was super crucial.
Okay.
And they advise against, conceiving when either a parent is like tired or stressed or under the influence of drugs or alcohol.
So it's not just about the physical health, it's also about like the mental and emotional state too.
Exactly. They even say to avoid like conceiving during, times of conflict or upheaval, like, I don't know, wartime.
Oh, wow.
Or even a family argument.
That's really interesting. I can definitely see how like external stress would, somehow affect the energy of the baby.
Right.
So do they have any like specific tips on how to create the, I don't know, ideal conditions for conception?
Well, they suggest, creating a peaceful and relaxed environment.
Okay.
Like a comfortable room temperature, maybe some candles, incense, calming music.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Right. And then they recommend like taking a relaxing bath together and then about 30 minutes later, making love.
That actually sounds really romantic.
It is. And they even have techniques for potentially, influencing the sex of the child.
Okay, tell me everything. I know people have so many theories about this, but what's the Taoist approach?
Okay, so to conceive a male child, they say intercourse should be brief with ejaculation happening, quickly before the woman orgasms.
Okay.
And the man should also withdraw partially before ejaculating. And they connect this to the observation that, men who ejaculate prematurely tend to have more sons.
Interesting.
So for a girl, they recommend longer intercourse with multiple orgasms for the woman.
Huh.
And the man should penetrate deeply and then ejaculate.
So it's all about like the timing and the, energetic interplay between the partners?
Right. But is there any like actual science behind this? Like, do they explain how it works?
Yeah, I'm curious about that too.
They do. It all comes down to acidity levels in the woman's reproductive system.
Oh, okay.
So they believe that sperm carrying the male chromosome is like slower but tougher in acidic conditions, while sperm carrying the female chromosome is like faster but more vulnerable to acidity.
Got it.
So by adjusting the timing and penetration depth, you might be able to influence the environment that those sperm encounter.
That's fascinating. It seems like they really like thought this through.
They did, and they even suggest that diet can play a role, saying that eating acidic foods might increase the acidity in the woman's reproductive system, making it, more conducive to conceiving a boy.
It's amazing how they've kind of like woven together all these different aspects of life diet, sexual practices, timing to create this like holistic system for health and well-being.
It's a really fascinating blend of ancient wisdom and modern insights.
It is. And speaking of holistic systems, the book also delves deeper into that one-to-one principle that we kind of touched on earlier.
Oh, right, the Taoist perspective on monogamy.
Yeah.
So they believe that having one sexual partner, whether it's for a period of time or a lifetime, is ideal for maintaining a healthy immune system.
Okay.
They explain that everyone carries like unique germs,
Right.
and close contact exposes you to those. So over time, you build up an immunity to your partner's germs.
So it's not just about morality, it's about the practicalities of a healthy immune system.
Exactly. But,
Yeah.
they do offer guidance for people with multiple partners, stressing the importance of, those waiting periods between partners
Right.
to allow the body to adjust and to, minimize the risk of any infections.
So it's about being responsible and, making informed choices no matter what your, relationship style is. Now, I have to ask about this whole cleanliness thing.
Yeah,
They seem to really emphasize hygiene, especially before sex.
they do. It's all about minimizing, the transmission of any germs. So they recommend like showering or bathing before sexual activity, and they even suggest a variety of different baths: air baths, sun baths, water baths, fire baths, and even sand, dirt, or mud baths.
Wait, fire baths. What is a fire bath?
Yeah, so apparently it involves like lighting a small fire in a fireproof container. Then you quickly grab at the flame to like capture the heat, and then you open your hand on your skin to let that heat penetrate. And they claim it's especially good for things like rheumatism, arthritis, and stimulating circulation.
Okay, that's definitely not your average bubble bath.
No, not at all. It shows you how creative and unconventional they were in their approach to health and hygiene.
It does. Now, I noticed that they also have some pretty, strong views on things that, a lot of people consider normal, like celibacy.
Oh, yeah.
They actually considered celibacy to be, like, harmful to the body.
They did, yeah.
Why is that?
Well, they believe that denying any part of your body its natural function creates like an imbalance in the entire system.
Yeah.
Remember, it's all about maintaining that flow of energy.
All right.
So blocking that flow, even in one area,
Yeah.
can have negative consequences.
Mm-hmm.
They say that celibacy can lead to like the atrophy of the, sexual glands and the pineal gland, which they saw as like, your connection to the divine. So
Right.
it's not about repressing sexuality. It's about understanding it
Right.
and integrating it into a, healthy and balanced life.
So another topic that comes up pretty often is swallowing semen.
Oh, yes.
And the book, it has some thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so let's talk about it. Is it healthy? Is it harmful? What's the Taoist verdict?
Okay, well, they acknowledge that semen is like, very nutritious
Okay.
and contains a lot of beneficial substances. They even suggest that, some women who struggle to lose weight might be unknowingly absorbing calories and nutrients through their vaginas rather than their mouths.
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
Right, but they also point out that, semen can carry diseases.
Right, of course.
So the decision of whether or not to swallow semen is really like a personal one
Yeah.
based on, health concerns and relationship dynamics.
It's about making, informed choices, which is a theme that runs throughout this whole book.
Exactly.
Now, do they get into any specifics about, diet? Like, are there certain foods that they recommend or advise against?
Well, they really emphasize a balanced diet
Okay.
and avoiding harmful substances. For example, they mentioned that lamb can have a stimulating effect. It can increase sexual desire.
Interesting.
But then they also say that acidic foods can negatively impact sperm count and fertility.
Okay.
And then they warn against, drugs, saying that they create imbalances and, can damage organs over time.
So it's like nourishing your body with good food
Right.
and just avoiding anything that, kind of disrupts your natural balance.
Exactly. And they also talk about the dangers of fantasies,
Right.
suggesting that they can lead to mental and emotional disharmony.
It's interesting how they see like fantasies as a form of imbalance. What's the reasoning behind that?
Well, they believe that when you fantasize during sex, you're not fully like present with your partner.
Oh,
So your mind and body are kind of divided,
right.
which can create this like disconnect in the relationship
Right.
and even lead to, mental health issues down the line.
So it's about like being mindful and present in the moment,
Yeah,
both physically and emotionally.
exactly. And speaking of mindfulness, they dedicate a whole section to the mind-body connection
Yeah.
and, those 5 abilities of the mind that we talked about earlier.
Right. Creative thinking, consideration, decisiveness, emotions, and spirit or intuition.
Right. And it's fascinating how they link each ability to a specific organ.
Yeah, it really is. It really highlights how interconnected our physical and mental states are.
Right. They believed that the, health of our organs directly impacts our mental and emotional well-being
Right.
and vice versa.
It's such a holistic approach, you know?
It is. And they even provide like, specific exercises and practices
Okay.
to strengthen those abilities and to cultivate greater harmony between mind and body.
So it's not just about like understanding these principles, it's about actually putting them into practice.
Exactly. And one final point they make is the importance of, relaxation and preparation before sex. And they introduced this exercise called the spoon exercise.
Bone exercise.
Yeah.
Okay, now you've got my attention. What's that all about?
So it involves both partners lying on their sides, one facing the back of the other, like,
Okay.
2 spoons nestled together in a drawer.
Mm,
The person in the back, breathes gently onto their partner's neck, and they
okay.
try to, like, synchronize their breathing.
That sounds really intimate and calming.
It is. The goal is to achieve deep relaxation and connection before, transitioning into sexual intimacy.
Right.
They even say that couples should be able to, like, hear each other's heartbeats if they're, truly relaxed.
Right. Wow, that's beautiful imagery. It's about slowing down, tuning into your partner, and like really creating that sacred space.
Exactly. It's a wonderful way to move from the, busyness of everyday life into a more mindful and connected experience.
It's a great reminder that sex isn't just physical, it's an opportunity for deep connection and energetic exchange.
That's a perfect way to put it. It really speaks to the heart of Taoist sexology, viewing sexual energy as, this powerful force for healing, transformation, and even spiritual growth.
It's given us a lot to think about.
It has. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I wanted to share some interesting stats from a survey of people who've actually practiced these Taoist techniques.
Ah, that's cool. I'd love to hear that. What did they find?
Okay, so 95% of those surveyed reported feeling better after practicing the deer exercise. Only 5% felt no change at all, and none reported feeling worse.
That's pretty impressive. It seems like the deer exercise really does have, a positive impact on people's well-being.
It does. And for the female deer exercise and its, effects on menstruation,
Right.
the results are also, like, super compelling.
Okay.
Almost 40% of the women who tried to, stop their cycles were completely successful. Another 40% experienced a significant reduction in their flow, and only 20% couldn't stop menstruating at all.
So while it might not work for everyone, it seems like a significant number of women are experiencing the benefits they're seeking.
Exactly. And for those who did, stop completely,
Yeah.
about 39% achieved it within 3 months, while around 60% needed up to 6 months. Only 1% needed a year or more to see results.
So it takes, dedication, but for many, it seems worth it.
It does. It's important to remember, though, that these are just statistics.
Yeah.
Individual experiences vary,
Of course.
but the overall trend, seems positive.
It's really encouraging to see that these like ancient practices are, still beneficial in today's world.
It speaks to the, the timeless wisdom of Taoism and its focus on, harnessing the body's natural energies for health, vitality, and even spiritual growth.
It's definitely given us a lot to think about.
It has. And, it's important to approach these practices with an open mind
Yeah.
and a healthy dose of skepticism.
Absolutely. It's not about, blindly following everything. It's about exploring, experimenting, and finding what works best for you.
Exactly. Now, before we move on, there's one more fascinating tidbit from the book that I'd love to share.
Okay, hit me with it. What's the last nugget of wisdom?
Okay, so it's about facial analysis and how it can reveal clues about, a person's sexual organs and their overall health.
Wait, you're saying you can like read someone's face and know about their private parts?
Well, according to, Taoist principles,
Right.
certain features can offer insights.
Yeah.
For example, they say that, the thumb is shaped like the penis.
Right.
So the thumb is shaped like a mushroom. The penis will also have like a large head and a narrow shaft.
So if I see someone with a mushroom-shaped thumb, I should just assume.
Well, hold on. It's not about, making assumptions.
Right.
It's about understanding the interconnectedness of the body
Okay.
and how, seemingly small features can, offer clues about our overall health and well-being.
It's definitely a different way of, looking at the human body.
It is, and it's another example of how, Taoism kind of blends ancient wisdom with keen observation of the natural world.
I have to say, this deep dive has been, a real eye-opener.
Hasn't it? And this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Taoist philosophy.
It's definitely inspired me to, learn more.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
It speaks to how these, ancient teachings can still resonate and inspire us today.
They can.
Before we wrap up, there's something else I wanted to bring up.
Yep.
It's about how the Taoists viewed the connection between sexual energy and spiritual development.
Oh, okay, yeah. Tell me more about that connection. I'm all ears.
So they believe that sexual energy isn't just about, physical pleasure or procreation,
Right.
but that it's this like powerful force that can be used for, spiritual growth and transformation. In fact, they saw it as the most potent energy in the human body.
Wow.
Yeah. So how did they suggest using this energy for, spiritual purposes?
Right. Did they have any, specific practices or techniques?
They did. One of the key practices was to cultivate and refine this energy through specific, exercises and meditations.
Okay.
And they believe that by consciously redirecting sexual energy upwards, like towards the higher energy centers,
Right.
you could like awaken dormant spiritual potential and, experience heightened states of awareness.
So it's like taking that raw primal energy and
Yeah.
transforming it into something, more refined and elevated.
Exactly. They saw it as this like process of alchemy,
Right.
turning, base metal into gold. And this transformation, they believed, could lead to like profound spiritual insights and even mystical experiences.
That's incredible. It really makes you wonder what's possible if we could, tap into that power within us.
It does. And it's important to remember that this is just one aspect of Taoist philosophy and practice. There's so much more to, explore and discover within this rich tradition.
It's definitely giving us a lot to think about and maybe even some practices to, experiment with. But before we wrap things up, I'm curious about one more thing.
Cool.
We've talked a lot about the, the benefits of Taoist sexology, but are there any potential risks or downsides that, people should be aware of?
That's a great question. And it's important to, approach any new practice or system with caution and common sense.
Right.
While Taoist sexology offers many potentially beneficial techniques, it's, crucial to listen to your body
Right.
and to avoid anything that feels, uncomfortable or harmful.
So it's not about pushing yourself beyond your limits or trying to achieve some
Yeah.
idealized state.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you
Right.
and incorporating these practices gradually and mindfully into your life.
And I imagine it's also important to, work with qualified practitioners if you're, exploring these techniques more deeply.
Absolutely. Finding, experienced and knowledgeable teachers or guides can make a big difference in your journey and, ensure that you're practicing safely and effectively.
That's great advice. Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground today, but I feel like we could keep talking about this for hours.
I know, right? There's so much depth and richness to Taoist sexology. But I think it's probably time to, wrap up this part of our deep dive
Okay.
and let you, digest all this information.
That sounds good. It's wild how they connected it to, something so much bigger.
It is. Like, it reminds us that we're not just these isolated beings.
Yeah.
We're all part of this larger web of energy connected to the rhythms of nature and, well, the universe.
Right.
One thing that really captured my imagination was this whole idea of seed protection.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that briefly. It's a pretty powerful concept when you think about it.
It is, right. It really shows how they viewed sexual energy, not as something, to just like throw around, but as this precious resource.
Right.
They believed every ejaculation was like a creative act directly tied to, well, creating life passing on that vital essence.
It makes sense. It wasn't something to be taken lightly.
Exactly. And remember, they believed that the energy of both parents, like at the very moment of conception, was crucial to the health and vitality of the child.
It goes so much deeper than just, the physical act of conception.
Right. It's like conscious parenting, but on an energetic level.
I love that.
It really speaks to the holistic nature of their philosophy.
It does.
Recognizing that everything is interconnected, that we have this responsibility to create the best possible conditions for new life.
It's about aligning ourselves with those natural rhythms, right?
Yes. Living in a state of flow, harmony, rather than, resistance and struggle.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
It is. We've explored some pretty deep concepts today.
We have.
Hopefully we've given our listeners, a little glimpse into the wisdom and the power of Taoist sexology.
And maybe even sparked their curiosity.
Right. To, dive in a little deeper and see what resonates.
Yes,
It's a journey.
It is. The journey of self-discovery never really ends, right?
There's always something new to learn.
Always.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Taoist sexology.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Until next time.